It's Tuesday morning. Why are cats yelling at me? It's, um, uh, I really hate talking about politics. So where was I going with this? In August of 1996. August 1996. What's her name? Patricia Ireland at the time was the president of the National Organization of Women. Ah, gnats. Speaking of annoying things. Um, not to say there's anything wrong with the National Organization of Women. It's a fine organization. It does good work. But misunderstands. Oh, I think most people do. I think all people do in general. How our political parties work. I'm so getting ahead of myself. It's Tuesday morning. I've had like one sip of coffee. I'm very tired. I never sleep well these days. The National Organization of Women, August 1996, does this thing where she announces that the National Organization of Women is never going to raise a single dime for the president who gets rid of welfare, which is what Bill Clinton was going to do. I think she made her announcement August 16, 15, somewhere around there. I'm terrible with dates. No, on August 22nd, Bill Clinton just signed the bill to get rid of welfare. Obviously, it didn't get rid of welfare, but he did sign it. He just ignored her. Oh, more importantly, ignored the National Organization of Women. And it's really important why, I think. It's my opinion. Why that's important. It's relevant, I think, to our current political dilemma for the president. Bill Clinton ignored now because he could. They're now. They're what are they? What's the threat? Or else we're gonna vote Republican. You know. I mean, if he gave a shit at all, I think he'd be like, no. You'll keep raising money for me. You'll keep voting for me. You'll keep supporting me. Nah, you know. Likewise, I'm not even picking on Democrats. It's moving forward. You have George W. Bush, who was kind of lauded for not really bailing out Enron during the Enron thing. Like, there's oh my God, there's so much bullshit going on during the Enron debacle. But George Bush never, like they begged the White House. They came to the White House begging for basically, I guess, a bailout, and he kind of ignored them because this wasn't a sign of George Bush had this tremendous, integrity or anything like that. It's like, look, I'm George W. Bush. I was the governor of Texas. I don't need the oil vote. I've already got it. There's nothing you can do for and that's my point. There's nothing they could do for him. There's nothing now can do for Bill Clinton back in '96. There's nothing Enron could do for George Bush. So, screw off but keep supporting me and keep giving me money and keep voting for me and encouraging people to vote for me, because you will, because you have no choice. And that's kind of my lead up. That's where I'm going with this thing. I guess. Hold on. Oh, God. It's like the best time to record in mornings. All right. Anyway, what I'm saying is there's a moral hazard, a particularly onerous one. I mean, not as moral hazard; it's ubiquitous, but particularly when you have this sort of lesser evil political theory of let's make sure so and so doesn't get in, so let's vote for the other guy. Let's vote for one person simply because we don't want the other person. Like, that's the crux of it. Maybe we can defend our candidate, but more than that, we just don't want the other candidate to win, which is a weird little comment. God, how to put this? Uh, when you have the lesser evil philosophy is shitty philosophy. I mean, just duh. It should be obvious. It doesn't need a terrible amount of exposition. It's like, look, you're just voting for the shittier candidate. Well, if you keep doing that, then you're going to end up with a lot of candidates who are only as good as they need to be to get elected. That, which is to say, they're just going to be slightly less bad than they perceive their opponent to be. A political party isn't going to forward someone who's upstanding or morally anything if they can just get someone they think will beat the other guy. That's as far as they need to go. They'll go as far as you make them go. But you have this becomes very problematic when you have a strictly two-party system, because I mean then you painted yourself into a corner. It's you know I use the example of Enron and now, but you can use that to describe anyone, where it's like, why, unless there's something about you where there's some chance, some reasonable chance you might vote for the other guy. Your political party, your political candidate has no reason to give a shit about anything you do. I mean, it's all of your threats are empty because you're only voting for him or her in this election in particular strictly on the basis of this person isn't the other person, and they're still going to be that. I mean, you've picked your criteria. It's what am I really good on this issue or that issue? Specifics. Barack Obama got into office being very much once again, I mean, he was more persuasive than most. I'll grant him that. I mean, some of these candidates I've seen recently, God, they sound awful. Like, people are like, oh, wow, I just feel so enlivened and enriched. It's just, this is this is one of the great speakers. And I'm like, are we listening to the same thing? This year, they just all sound awful. Like, I can't stand them. Holy crap. I mean, Clinton is terrible, but Trump, I want to put chopsticks in my ears so I'm deafened so I don't have to listen to it anymore. It's awful. Just awful, awful, awful speaking. A lot of people were really on board with Bernie Sanders, like, oh wow, he's a great speaker. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, holy crap, that guy was awful. And not to disparage his message, I guess, but I do disparage his message. I think it was very economically illiterate. Uh, I think he had no ideas. I like no one at this point. I firmly endorse, I'm a libertarian. That's kind of a thing. People who know me know. I, so I was going to vote for my guy anyway. I wasn't, there was no chance that these guys were going, unless they were extremely persuasive. Ron Paul, I guess, had a chance because he's, aside from some issues, he's actually, by and large, very libertarian. And, he's, if he could change the Republicans into something not shitty, good on him. Then he should. That would be a good thing, even though I'm kind of, I get off making fun of Republican politicians. It's one of my many sexual fetishes. This is ladies. But I don't know, I'm off track. I'm really sleepy too. I make that excuse a lot, and it's true. I'm super, super tired. I don't sleep well. My cat mug is awesome. My cat is awesome. Don't believe me? Is that adorable or what? Meow, meow, meow. But, so yeah. So we get to this election, and it's like up to this point, you've got two candidates who are awful. They're just terrible. And my kind of, why am I making this video in the first place? Because I'm getting a deluge of Facebook posts with people telling me I'm wasting my vote. And this is sort of kind of my reaction to that. And my point is, no, you're wasting your vote. Because you're for the people posting who would post something like you're wasting your vote if you don't vote for it's more Clinton. To be honest, I just don't know that many people who even hardcore Republicans are like kind of, God, this guy is just vomitous. But even kind of hardcore liberals who were way on board with Sanders are kind of like, wow, this Clinton's terrible. But so this is really more aimed at a narrow sliver of people who were on board with Bernie Sanders but have switched to Clinton very, very reluctantly because Trump is awful. And he is. He looks terrible. I'd argue, I wouldn't argue. The argument, I will admit the argument could be made. Trump's theoretical awfulness, like he would do awful things, is kind of, has to be balanced against Clinton has done awful, awful, awful things. It's a terrible candidate. I mean, it's, goddamn, if that's your choice, it's you're sitting here with a little bowl of horse shit and a little bowl of bullshit and going, which one's tastier? Well, I think the bullshit, like, bull manure is like less awful. So, fuck you. I'm not putting a spoon in either of these. Fuck that. No way. So posting you're wasting your vote is not swaying me at all. If you're just going to vote for someone because they're less awful than someone else, you don't believe in them, and they don't respect you for it. They really don't. I mean, it's like, both of these candidates, both these terrible, 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 terrible candidates are completely relying on the fact that some people are going to vote Republican no matter what they feel. It doesn't even have to be a human being. But likewise, some people are going to vote Democrat no matter what, no matter how awful the person they're voting for is, how awful they know the person they're voting for is. I once quipped, and this was back, God, I guess it was high school or maybe early college, that this is my thing, and I think it's still true today. It's like, if the Republicans ran like a refrigerator, like with like maybe an ice maker in it, like a nice American-made, refrigerator, steel, obviously, and like the Democrats as their candidate against the refrigerator was like like a cute puppy or something, people would still vote for both of those candidates. I guarantee you. Really, if that really was a thing that happened, both of those candidates would get votes. Some people just reflexively vote for their party. Like I guess it's like a football team thing. It's like, well, of course we're gonna root for so and so. That's our team. Or we have a shitty team this year. We're still gonna root for them. You know, it's like if the Bengals are awful, people don't just start rooting for other football teams that I don't know because I'm not a sports guy. Because if that were the case, the Bengals would have no fans. From what I understand, they're terrible. At one point, the worst team in the franchise, the history of the franchise, but they still got fans, and so do these two political parties. My point is, there's only two swing states. There's only two. If you're not in one of them, fuck all. It doesn't matter what you vote. If you're in California, Clinton's gonna win. Voting for Clinton isn't winning you anything. You're wasting your vote. You are wasting your vote. If you're in not a swing state and you're just voting for the person who expects your vote and is going to get your vote, remember this: the election isn't won by a popular vote. It's won by the Electoral College, and 48 of the 50 states, it's a done deal already. Or is it? You know, this year was contentious enough. It might actually not be. There's a chance that these candidates are so awful they'll have broken the horrible system they're relying on, which is great. That's fantastic. That's awesome news. That's something to get excited about. Don't do this "we're wasting your vote" bullshit. Waste your vote. You know, if you're in Kentucky or Indiana or whatever, don't vote for the guy who's going to win anyway. Who's going to get your electoral college vote? What's the point of even showing up? Who cares? I mean, it's just like, it's shocking to me that every time I see, like, the news will lament how low voter turnout is. For 48 states, it doesn't matter what you do. This person is going to get your electoral college vote. If you're in California, it's going to be the Democrat. If you're in Nevada or someplace, you know, it's going to be the Republican. Trump has Nevada, probably. Maybe not, actually, this year, but, and that's my point. Like, don't vote for shitty people who think they have your vote. It's it's not just a question of maybe they won't get the electoral college votes and maybe they won't get into office. It's uh, we have a very our election system is really fucking has some serious deep flaws. But the candidates can get matching funds based on how many elections they get, how much, what the percentage of their gimme is. It's bullshit, but whatever. That's what it is. You know, if you are not a liberty-minded person like myself, you know, vote for Jill Stein. She's actually pretty awesome. If I don't agree with a lot of Jill Stein stuff, Green Party, but you know, I can't fault her for not having integrity. I can't fault her for not trying. You know, like, I respect Jill Stein. Don't respect these other two yahoos. You know, Clinton, Trump. Not at all. Not even a little. They fucking suck. Don't vote for them. It's like, don't vote for those assholes. Um, and that's really, like, I don't really like doing politics because I don't like starting arguments. I really don't. I do call center work. Most of my job is stopping people from arguing. I want to stop arguments, not start them. But this is getting out of hand. If you want things to change, you should change them. Don't complain about how they're awful. And don't, you know, bitch at me, try to get me on board with your nonsense. That's silly. I'm not doing that. Anything else? No, I don't think so. I'm out.